Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at Magnezone Shadow Magnezone. This Pokemon is most likely going to be worse than it, but I have to say the results of this team were amazing. So let's move right into the gameplay and we're gonna talk a little bit about the issues of this move and also, in general, something about this team. This team itself was amazing. I think I went 8-2 or 7-3. I think it was 7-3 with this team, and I can say if I went for Volt Switch over Magnezone, at least I would have won like 1 or 2 more games of them. So again, I would actually highly recommend you to try out this team here, but try to go for Volt Switch over Magnezone and you're going to have way better results. But the team itself is amazing. Like, this team is really good. I would highly recommend you try it out. Like, I felt so comfortable playing this team. Also, by the way, look at this. I used the shield here, which was a little bit silly because I have a Cresselia in the back, but I knew basically that I would be able to get the shield back here with a bait, and I'm winning the CMP tie now, so I can still reach a Shadow Ball, going for the big boom, gonna get the knockout, and so Magnezone going to be able to win this first game here. So, here's the thing as well. I actually think that Magnezone can be really cool in the future, because for Magnezone, what this actually does is you're going to have better matchups against the Dragon-type Pokemon, which might be very interesting. Wild Charge usually going to one-shot most Pokemon anyway from a Shadow Magnezone, or like does a lot of damage. So if they're going to go ahead and buff the Magnezone to be a Powder Snow clone, so I think giving it extra 2 damage, this move would actually be really interesting for this thing. It would not be a clear upgrade over Volt Switch. Volt Switch still would be better in terms of the damage that it would still deal, but still would give it a different kind of matchup. So right now, the issue for Magnezone is that it's a 3 damage move with 8 energy generation, so the same energy generation as Volt Switch, but it does like way less damage. I think Volt Switch is like 12 damage or something like this. And also, like, right now, basically, this the other move would be 6 damage at the same amount of time that Volt Switch takes, so you basically have 6 damage also as a difference. So basically, Volt Switch does double the amount of damage in a neutral scenario compared to the Magnezone, while Magnezone does generate the same amount of energy. So would be really cool if they're gonna put it a little bit closer while making it basically a Powder Snow clone, maybe in the next season. But right now, not really ideal, but still, this team was a lot of fun, and I would highly recommend you to try it out. It's literally so balanced as well. One issue would be maybe Gligar lead, but that's kind of rare, and you can still actually deal with it with your lead of the Magnezone. So, next opponent, Horrific Lead, we're going to swap out immediately into our own Annihilate. We're going to get out the Feraligatr. Feraligatr is also a Pokemon that would be totally fine for this team to deal with if we would run a Volt Switch in the lead, but because we don't run a Volt Switch in the lead, we're going to have a lead that is going to be able to go only for resisted damage against the opponent. My Say Swap is going to try to bait it out, and with Night Slash you're going to be able to outspeed it if you're going to get the energy advantage from swapping out first. But it is just going to be a very tough matchup in general. Here, maybe I should have actually used the shield and just to realign, but I decided to go into my Magnezone, and now I have to use my shield anyway. I think I would have not been able to realign, to be fair, but it's going to be okay here. We can still go ahead, overfarm by a little bit, go for our charge move here, but again, we would have been easily able to just Volt Switch them down, get a ton of energy without having to throw in any move, and we would have been fine. But yeah, it was not the case here because we're just not going to really have the damage output with the new fast move. So again, this team is amazing. I would just recommend you to use a different kind of fast move on the Magnezone. So, we want to see in the back another Pokemon where it would have been just so different if we would have been able to go for the Volt Switch instead, because if we now had energy on our Magnezone, we would have been fine because we would have been able to knock out the opponent's Talonflame, but because we were not able to farm down because it was a Water-type Pokemon that is resisting our fast move, we are going to go down here, and this is going to be the first loss of today. Moving on. By the way, you see every single battle that I did with this team in this video as well, so like there's nothing that is cut out. This next battle was something that I just didn't really pay too much attention again, which is something that happens quite often, but like it is what it is. We're gonna see here the swap of Frostless, which is actually really decent for us because we have coverage in Night Slash, we have coverage in the Shadow Ball. I was thinking that, here you saw me not counting the moves of the opponent, which is really tricky because now the opponent is going to be able to win CMP tie. Honestly, I did not know that they would win CMP tie against me as well, so that's mostly why I didn't really pay too much attention. But I don't think that the Night Slash would have been enough at that point for the Froster, so I had to go for the Shadow Ball anyway. But I'm not too sure about it. Here I'd still try to basically get the shield from the opponent by going for my Night Slash bait, because I know that I would not be able to reach the charge move of the Shadow Ball in time, so the opponent actually didn't fall for it, which is kind of sad for us, but still going to be okay, because they're going to have a Swampert in the back. But we're still not going to be in a great spot, because both Pokemon of the opponent have to be killed kind of from our Cresselia, and that's going to be a tricky task, and I decided to swap out into my Magnezone. But luckily the opponent decides to go for a charge move here, which is going to be the Hydro Cannon, knocking us out, and I don't get to the move in time. But because the opponent is going to decide to go for the Earthquake, I'm fairly certain that I can at least go for 3 extra fast move, which was correct here, and so I can go for the knockout with my Grass Knot, getting the KO here, and we can still reach another Grass Knot in time. So Cresselia in the back was a lot of fun to play. This Pokemon is so good in the current meta. Moving on, we're going to see a matchup that I kind of want to talk about as well. This would be so different if you just give the fast move of Metal Sound a little bit of a different upgrade in terms of like damage output. Because this is the issue for the Magnezone. Magnezone basically only can really damage opponents with the electric type damage. Because Mirror Shot is a pretty bad move. It does basically, I think it's like 35 energy for 35 damage, which is pretty horrific. So it's always going to be more damage output from the Wild Charge, even if it's resisted. And yeah, for me, it would be like just so cool if we just have a little bit of a damage output from the Steel typing, from the Metal Sound for this Pokemon, just to deal with those yeah, Pokemon from the Dragon type a little bit more. So, next opponent here, this is going to be a very tough matchup for us now. Because we are shield down, we know that they're going to have the Feraligatr, which is going to be a tough matchup for our Cresselia in the back. They're going to have here now the Mantine, which was able to catch A move, but B also just undercharges here, which was really smart. So they have a ton of energy, and basically we have no chance of winning this game. Like there's no chance that we can win this. The opponent's still going to have the Mantine here, which is going to still have to soak up basically one charge move from me. I'm going to have a low HP Pokemon in the back, but the opponent makes a crucial mistake here. They decide to swap out into the Feraligatr. No reason for this, like literally just stay in, force us to go for a charge move against the opponent's Mantine, and they would have been fine, but they even let the second move go through here for whatever reason, allowing me to swap out onto the charge move of the opponent into my Magnezone, so I can take the double resisted Aerial Ace, and they undercharge it too much, so I can even reach another charge move. And this unwinnable game, because I didn't give up, was actually something that we can still win here, because yeah, the opponent made a lot of mistakes, and this is going to be a good game here. So basically, for those scenarios where like there is maybe still a win con if the opponent screws up, it's always kind of better for you to still try to play it out. Here we saw in the lead right now the Shadow Alolan Sandslash, and here's the thing as well, if we had Volt Switch, we would have done a way more damage against the opponent, kinda making it a way better matchup for us, because we would have had more pressure against the opponent, and in the long run, if you get some counter damage in, which you did before, we would have been having such a better time here. But again, the opponent is going to be able to now go into their Sableye, which is good that we're gonna get this out, because our Pokemon in the back, our Cresselia, does not appreciate the Sableye at all. My best play is to go for the CMP tie here. This is the only thing that I can really do. It is going to do a ton of damage, but we see again the Sandslash coming in, and we don't do enough damage in order to put them into a range where I would have been able to maybe even go for a Future Sight now to knock them out, because Future Sight is still doing a ton of damage. The opponent is Shadow, it is a stab move, it is a hard-hitting move, but because we just didn't get enough fast move pressure in before, this next Future Sight is not going to put them into a range where we can farm them down, and this is going to be an issue, because we're gonna see here in the back as well, if we had Volt Switch, this matchup would have been so different. The opponent would have gone down here, and we're gonna see as well now, we can use another shield just to see what they have in the back. If it's like something like a Pelipper, we can still win, but it is not going to be the case. It's going to be the Lantern. But if I just had Volt Switch, I would have won this game as well, but it just showcased again how good this team is if you just would use a different fast move. But of course, this video is mainly to showcase the potential of the move Metal Sound. As we can see again, this would be a matchup where it would be really cool to do a little bit more damage if like this would be like a Powder Snow clone, because then we would be able to get the opponent into a range where a Wild Charge would most likely knock them out. Like if we do like double the amount of damage with a fast move, we would have been able to most likely farm down there as well in that scenario. But because it's not the case, we're not going to be able to do that. So basically, for Niantic, I really hope that they're going to buff this move in terms of the damage more than the energy in the future. I don't really want this to be a Mudshot clone. I feel like Mudshot clone does not really help out the Magnezone at all. I rather would see +2 on damage for this move, and I think it actually has some potential in the future with that. Also for Pokemon like Bronzong, also for Pokemon like Ramadam, and it would not be broken at all. Like literally would not be broken. Would be very, very balanced. But yeah, here we're gonna see in the back a Galvantula, which can be a little bit tricky. Galvantula actually a Pokemon that I maybe want to take a look at as well eventually, because you can pair it basically with the Charger Bug. Like using Charger Bug as a say swap, using the Galvantula in the back or whatever, that would be kind of cool. Or even using Galvantula with the move Lunch as a say swap might be interesting. But honestly, I feel like this Pokemon has a lot of potential in the current meta. There are so many Pokemon being weak to the Bug plus the Electric typing. But the cool thing for us, Cresselia is so bulky that we can even take this move. I can go ahead and knock them out here because I didn't really want to deal with them late on as well, because they were not in range yet for the Psycho Cut down, but we were able to get a boost here. Double boosted Shadow Ball is going to chunk away of the health of the opponent's Lantern, forcing them to use a charge move very early, and so we can still reach another Grass Knot and win this game. The boost certainly helped us here, 12.5 chance. Kind of unfortunate for the opponent, but let's move on to the next opponent here. This is a great matchup for us because we had like the fast move of Metal Sound, but issue is this team is pretty bad against Giratina. There's not a lot that I can do about this. Honestly, yeah, it is just bad against Giratina. Giratina is a Pokemon that I barely really face anyway, but it is just a pretty bad matchup for us. I cannot really say anything about it. And it's going to be a kind of destruction here of us as well. I tried to go ahead and go for the full farm down because this is basically our only way of coming back from this game. But the opponent makes a great play by going for the bait first, and they're actually still going to reach a Shadow Ball in time. And so we are shield down. We have one less Pokemon, and we can see in the back it's going to be a Quagsire, which you would have been able to deal with our Cresselia, but just not with a Whimsicott anymore, so we can move on to the next game. Next opponent is going to have the Skarmory in the lead, and they're actually staying in here, which I find kind of interesting. I decided to just go straight for the move, because here's the thing, I will always win the neutral matchup with it. We still generate the energy at the same pace as the Volt Switch, we still going to outspeed the opponent, but they decide to swap out into the Lantern, and I make a huge mistake here. I should have not went for this Wild Charge. This does not make any sense at all to go for this move, because basically, what is going to happen, I thought basically at this time, oh, I can just go for a Wild Charge, gonna put them into Grass Knot range, but it does not make sense, because Cresselia is going to end up anyway then, later on, against the opponent's Skarmory. Luckily, the opponent has not really an idea about how to really do their own game plan, I guess, because they decided to use a shield here, which doesn't make sense, because it's just literally a free shield for us, because I know that it can survive the next charge move and just knock them out. And now we are in a really low range, so the Skarmory basically gets no energy, and it's totally fine. But if the opponent actually took advantage from this, they might have been able to win this game, or like, I don't know what they're going to have in the back, but at least they're going to have a way better position for themselves. Honestly, they maybe actually would have been able to win the game there if they just positioned themselves a little bit differently. And so, yeah, I was lucky here, but again, opponent made a huge mistake there as well after I made a huge mistake. And so we can move on to the final battle for today. Here an example of where also the Metal Sound would have been a little bit better if it would have been a little bit better. We're going to be able to go for a Mirror Shot here against the opponent, and I don't really know why I did this. I wanted to try to get the attack drop against them, but they're also going to go ahead and go for the Body Slam for whatever reason, I don't really understand. But I can at least go ahead and get up to one Wild Charge. Maybe this Wild Charge is coming clutch later on, but we will find out shortly. We're going to see here that the opponent swaps out into a Skarmory, which is going to be okay for us. We have Shadow Ball. I kinda do like this matchup quite a bit, and so I can go for the Shadow Ball here, get the shield, totally okay with that, but it's still going to be a little bit of a trickier one. I can use a shield, and the opponent is going to decide to go for the Sky Attack again, and I can just go for another Shadow Ball, forcing another shield or the knockout. Let's see what we're gonna get here. They're going to use a shield, and again, I don't agree with this play for them, at least from what I see right now, because they know that I have energy on my lead, and they know that basically all the energy they stored right now is gonna go to waste. I can just go for a Mirror Shot, and they're gonna be gone with that. So if they just left the shield, basically, I think they had a chance of winning this game. While Whiscash against Cresselia is a little bit tricky for them, Scald can debuff me, and it's still going to be something where they could have a potential chance to win the game later on. But yeah, basically they would have had another shield here if they just didn't really play it that weirdly there, to be fair. And so I feel like this would have been something that we could have lost as well if the opponent plays it a little bit better. But they're gonna get actually 2 attack drops here, which is a little bit tricky because now we cannot farm them down, but we can still go for 2 grass knots. And so this is going to be a good game. So this team is actually amazing. I would really recommend you to try this one out. I just would recommend you to go for Volt Switch. I hope that Metal Sound gonna get buffed for the next season because I feel like there is potential for it, but not right now. So hope you enjoyed this one. Hope this helped you out, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.